You're now listening to Tuff Tiger Talk Flash Report.
You're now rocking with Tuff Tiger Talk on the PRO Media Network. Tuff Tiger Talk is in the building. Big ups to the Tuff Tiger Talk Nation. We in this thing. Appreciate y'all guys for being here on the show. Big ups to all the Tuff Tiger Talk family members out there in the hemisphere. Big ups to you. In this edition of Tuff Tiger Talk, we have several interesting news articles in the world of the LSU Tigers that we're going to cover for you guys in this show. So much love to you guys for being here. I'm Big Q chiming in with Tuff Tiger Talks, and we're going to bring in the co-host, my co-host on Tuff Tiger Talk, Uncle Mozzy. How you doing, fam?
I'm all right. What's good? Long time no hear, my brother.
Big. Good to see that you are doing well in the new year, my friend, and welcome back to Tuff Tiger Talk. And I know you was on vacation for a minute, but you are back from your vacation and you ready to talk some Tigers. So I'm glad to have you here, bro.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. I wish it was under much better circumstances than the foolishness we got going on in Baton Rouge right now. But that is what it is.
But a lot of that, was a bit of. It was definitely dysfunctional, to say the least. But ultimately, Coach O has recognized that change must come, and he's gotten rid of the defensive coordinator. We're changing up the offensive coordinator, and assistant coaches. All kind of stuff's going on. And LSU is a major plus, realizing we had a fall from grace after that, right after our championship year, and now the work begins to get back to where we belong. So, moving forward on that in this edition, we're going to cover several news notes and items from LSU for Tuff Tiger Talk. So please hit the like button if you aren't a subscriber to Tuff Tiger Talk. Please feel free to subscribe and join the realest show talking about LSU football. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and even share the show in your social media. So let's get right into it. First article we're going to cover: LSU Assistant reportedly promoted to full-time role. And this one's coming from LSU Wire, and they talking about LSU had all of the vacancies that we had, but ultimately what occurred is now the Tigers have filled one of the roles, and offensive analyst Russ Callaway has reportedly been promoted to a full-time role on LSU staff, according to Football Scoop. Now, Callaway, who was hired last offseason, was with the offensive coordinator at Samford. That's S-A-M Ford, not Stanford, Samford, where he led one of the most prolific offensive units in the FCS. Now, it's unknown what role Callaway was given or could be given, but the move would keep a talented young offensive coach on staff. Now, he's former offensive coordinator Steve Ensminger was also LSU's quarterback coach. That would be a natural move for Callaway as he's transitioning to an on-field role with the Tigers. Callaway also could replace Scott Linehan as the passing game coordinator. I'm thinking that's what it is. Full-time role in the LSU's offense. I'm saying passing game coordinator. That's what Callaway, in my opinion, it's not official, but if you ask me to guess, I say that's the guess in that situation. Now, of course, still looking for OC in this deal, still looking for a defensive coordinator. A lot's going on with LSU. They're still doing very much a lot of the searching out there. Uncle Mozzy, you very aware of what's been going on with LSU from the coach's standpoint. What are your thought process on the passing game coordinator Callaway potential name, and who you like in terms of offensive coordinators for this team moving forward?
Well, I mean, Callaway can be a somewhat of a good fit, but I think that it's just a lot more in depth than this coordinator or a coaching change. I mean, obviously, those are going to be the first things that need to be handled, because this is not the pros where you could trade or get rid of players. But I think it's got something to. I've been screaming this since the beginning of the season. It's also got a lot to do with the fact that these kids have just got to get their minds together, and it's just going to be tough. Now, you do need active coaches or coaches that are capable of getting those 18, 19, 20-year-old minds to focus on the prize at hand. That's the issue that we seemingly had this year. Even when you go back to Joey Burrow's junior year, it wasn't as good as it was his senior year, when obviously he had one-on-one quarterback coaching, and he had that constant guide which he actually was able to take on the field and translate down to the younger players. And in the college game, unlike the college game, you're still dealing with a lot of transitional issues of kids, boys developing into men, on top of the obvious issues of the COVID and everything that kind of surrounded this team all year. So when you're looking at coaches, it's not so much of an X's and O's type of guy that you're looking for, as much as it is a more of a leader or a guy that can kind of come and institute some kind of stability in these kids' lives. Because it's not like LSU had any shortage of 3, 4, and 5-star recruits. It's not like we were like Itawamba State or something. Like, we had a fair share of 3, 4, and 5-star recruits, enough to not finish with a 5-5 record. So to me, that's the most important thing is whoever they get as the replacement coaches, are they going to be able to come in and kind of help develop the minds of these young guys going forward and keep them focused on football, like they do, like Saban does in the machine, the warehouse known as Alabama, the factory known as Alabama. It's like he produces robots. Now, I mean, you can say it's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know, but like, the programs that produce these robotic, athletes, those are the ones that are constantly in names in the hat for always winning. And if we're not going to bring a coach in that's capable of doing that, then I mean, we might want to reevaluate where we stand as a team and who we're bringing in as to coach these young guys.
The factory known as Alabama, a bit of inside news on those. I've done plenty of research on Nick Saban. Of course, Nick was here for a few more than a few years with LSU, won a national championship here, but ultimately taking the route to go pro for 1 year with Miami, finishing out 8.
Right.
And then ultimately going 8-8 that year and going back to college when he realized that it wasn't quite the same, and that's when he landed the Alabama job. But there's an interesting article out there. You can feel free to Tough Tiger Talk Nation to look it up, and a lot of the training that goes into how Saban's able to, graft the mind of the players to buy into the system. There's a guy he calls the Wizard that he sends them for psychological evaluation and kind of moving those guys around. I'm not going to get too deep into it. It's really interesting to see how he's been doing it, but it is another level of mind rinsing.
That's what it takes.
Right.
That's what it takes.
So that's definitely what he's employed in. And like I said, if you never heard that, get your ass on the computer and start looking it up. Anyway, let's move on to the next thing, man. Let's talk about the defensive side of the football. We just talked offense, OC coordinator. We talk about Callaway, an analyst job. I say it's passing game coordinator. It's not official, but what we're looking at on the defensive side of the ball is, according to AL.com, they're reporting that Coach Orgeron is interested in a defensive coordinator, and he can come from Arkansas. Barry Odom is a guy that Orgeron is reportedly a big fan of and that he's looking seriously at. Let's give a little backdrop on this guy. He was previously the head coach in Missouri. Now, Odom spent a total of 1 season as the D coordinator of the Razorbacks. Prior to that, he was the head coach of the Tigers from 2016 to 2019. During that span of time, he led the Tigers to a 25-25 overall record, 2 bowl game appearances, which were both losses. And this season, Arkansas surrendered 451.7 yards of total offense per game, which was the 4th most in the entire SEC. And that was slightly better than how LSU performed this year. So they surrendered 492 of the total offense per game. Now, Odom's defense allowed just 36 points per game, the same allowed by Bo Pelini's defense that marked tied for 97 among the 127 FBS teams. Now, LSU can't pry Odom away from Arkansas, told the AL.com. They're also targeting Cincinnati defensive coordinator Marcus Allen, who I like, Seattle Seahawks defensive coordinator Chris Richard, which is interesting. What I was reading on that is more of a long shot. Wisconsin defensive coordinator Jim Lionheart, and LSU's previously had success prying Wisconsin defensive coordinators out of Madison. Dave Aranda was a coordinator 2016 to 2019 before leaving this offseason to take that job at Baylor. Nothing's official, but Odom is the name to watch for LSU defensive coordinator search. Now, that's interesting, but I like the other guys. I do like Allen from Cincinnati. That's one of my favorites. Chris Richard, I'm not so certain on it. I would consider that more of a long shot based on the research I was looking at with him, because he's looking to excel in the NFL as opposed to fall back to be a college coordinator. So that to me is a bit of a long shot, but we'll see. And of course, Jim Lionard is another guy that's interesting, but I'm not, Oldham's all right, but that will not bring you that enthusiasm. If you look at his statistics from a year ago and what he's been able to do, he's kind of mediocre in my opinion. But I like the Cincinnati defensive coordinator. I think he will be a tremendous pickup there as well. Mozzy, what's your senses on this?
Well, as I look at it, the DC spot that's filled, or that needs to be filled, that'll soon be vacant. I look at the record and I hear what you're saying about his overall 25-25 at Mizzou and the amount that he gave up at Arkansas, which is fairly bad with overall FBS standards, definitely bad for SEC standards. But we definitely have to. We're not going to ignore the fact that both Missouri and Arkansas are littered with 1, 2, and maybe 3. A 3-star recruit from Missouri or Arkansas is a 5-star recruit for LSU and Alabama. So like they celebrate 3-star recruits, and the 3-star recruits are kind of teetering on the edge, but like that's their top recruits. And when you're constantly playing teams like Alabama, LSU, Georgia, Florida, it gets to be a bit of a pill. Ole Miss, Mississippi State, those are the Ole Miss and Mississippi States and Auburn's are kind of middle of the pack in the SEC. So they're gonna get like 3- and 4-star recruits, whereas the lower end, the bottom feed is the Vanderbilts, who consequently kill their own selves by high academic standards, still set so high that it's kind of tough for them to get players. The only team I ever been able to successfully see do that is Notre Dame, and even they had to modify, what their academic protocol was. So, like, okay, you got Vanderbilt, and you got Missouri, and you got Arkansas. I mean, these guys are little with 1, 2, and 3-star recruits. So I can't nail him to the cross until I actually see what he's able to do with 3, 4, and 5-star recruits. But yeah, we definitely gotta take that into account, that he did have a 25-25 record, and he did give up a shitload of yards this year on the defensive side of the ball as primarily a defensive coach. So it's just one of those things we got to see, but I definitely can't nail him to the cross until I see what he's capable of working with, because we had an awful year as well on the defensive side of the ball with 3, 4, and 5-star recruits. So you see what I'm saying? He did about the same with less. So let's see what he can do with more. If we can get that number down 30-40%, we'll be a lot more competitive. Our record would have been a lot more competitive this year had we given up 100 yards less per game. So it might be one of those small adjustments that'll get you an extra 2, maybe 3 wins a season, which in my book is very important.
Very important, no doubt about it. Astronomically huge. On the defensive side, I would say we were one of the worst, if not the worst. I would say the worst goddamn defense in the SEC, the way we played. And we giving up yardage the way we were giving up. We were too talented to be that bad. I mean, what's the problem with running a goddamn 2-side safety set with the talented cornerbacks that we have in Ricks and Stingley Jr.? Please, man. That's what's ridiculous. But anyway, let's move on to another one here and talk about who's coming back for 2021. It's confirmed that offensive lineman Ed Ingram will make his return. The 6'3", 315-pounder out of DeSoto, Texas, played in 9 games last year and is missing only 1 contest in Missouri. He is confirmed to come back. Also returning, Neil Farrell Jr., the big defensive lineman, is making his return. He saw action in 10 games for LSU. Starting 6 games, he racked up 99 tackles, 35 which were solo, 5.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 3 pass defense over 4 seasons. So, see, Neil is saying it's unfinished business. Let's get back to the block and make it happen. So also coming back is Hines. We got Chasen Hines. He'll make his return. The right guard for LSU is coming back. 6'3", 350-pounder. Played 9 of LSU's 10 games in the 2020 season. He's ready to run it back. So it's a series of those guys as well. Looking to come back. Defensive end Ali Gay said that he's going to make it back. He was an impact player last year on more than one occasion. He had 9.5 tackles for a loss, which was a team high, by the way. A couple of sacks. He also had interception, fumble recovery, a forced fumble, then 6 passes defense, as the big man will make it back to the field for the LSU defense. So good to see Ali Gay and those guys get back to business. So we get a bit of stability on that side. And of course, we'll know more as the offseason for LSU. That list will continue to grow. All right, let's jump into this article right here. LSU Tiger tight end Arik Gilberts says he plans to transfer. Remember, at first he was opting out of the season and so on and so forth, and now he said it was a bit of homesickness. Now all of a sudden, now he wants to go back, and obviously we're looking at his home. He's thinking about going to play for the Georgia Bulldogs, whoever. But he is said that he will enter the transfer portal, and this is coming from ESPN. Number 6 recruit in the 2020 class says he's entering the NCAA transfer portal after careful consideration. Coach O was trying to fight to keep this kid here, but he said talking with his family decided to enter the transfer portal, and he posted that on Twitter. He later deleted his tweet, and his name has yet not appeared in the portal. So listen, he said he was going to do it, then it disappeared. Is it a bit of backtracking here? Hopefully it is. Now, Gilbert, 6'5", 250 pounds, was ranked 3rd on the team with 35 catches, 368 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns in 8 games for LSU. On December the 9th, he opted out of the rest of the LSU season. I think it's a bit of frustration there. A lot of people was feeling that, but Gilbert is ESPN's top tight end and top Georgia prospect in the 2020 class that picked LSU over Georgia and Alabama. So he posted it, then deleted it. So hopefully he's thinking about staying with LSU, but would love to have this kid come back and play his game. But this team that we have, the experience from this young team this year going into the upcoming recruiting class that we bringing in, which is pretty good. I like the chances of LSU improving and doing a hell of a lot better than what the hell they did, plus the prospective coaches coming in as well. Uncle Mozzy, what is your thought process on Gilbert? What do you think goes on there?
Well, I think that it is a frustration thing, not only due to the fact of LSU's overall record this year and you know, the failure to have an LSU type winning season, but I think it also has a lot to do with the self-imposed idiotic sanctions where they limited themselves spots for scholarships and limited themselves bowl appearances, limited this, limited that. You know, other programs just don't have all of that going on. Not only that, but LSU has never been fullbacks and tight ends. LSU have never been a true conducive position if you're trying to elevate or get drafted or excel at those at those two positions. Hell, we had Moss last year. I mean, you know, I think he was an above-average tight end, and we didn't. I don't think obviously we had way more wide receiver weapons than we did this year, but I don't think we utilized him last year, and I don't think we utilized Gilbert, being 6'5", 253 pounds, only having 350 receiving yards in an entire season. I don't think we utilized him as well either, because we just don't do that with tight ends and fullbacks. That's just not who we are. We'll line up in big sets. We'll line up in jumbo sets where we'll run 2 tight ends or have a fullback dragging in a power eye and just try to run the ball down people's throat. But as far as a finesse game where we got a tight end running 30 yards down the field, that's just not LSU's game. I think that Gilbert understands that now. That was kind of lost in the sauce of the Joe Burrow you know, LSU's on the cusp of being something when he got here. But I think that at this point, he's like, yo, I made a big mistake last year. I saw something totally different. I thought I could come in at my size and weight, come in right behind Moss, replace him, and play for a winning organization. But it just hasn't been that. And he obviously sees why Moss was struggling with LSU as well. Outside of the injury and the transfer issues he had, we just not a tight end fullback school on the offensive side of the ball. Unless you want to come here and block.
You look at Arik Gilbert, man, and you talked about finesse tight end, spread offense here. So that's the mindset moving forward, is that whoever Ogeron picks to be the OC will have to have some type of familiarity, you know, with the spread offense. And then using that spread offense, you can use a guy like Gilbert in that spread offense to have massive success. So
that's hedging your future, though. So you got to look at it from Gilbert's perspective. Like, okay, if you bring a guy in that does that and is conducive to the style of football I want to play, then it's a win for me. But if you don't, I've set myself back another year. Now I enter the transfer portal as a sophomore/junior. I got to sit out a year possibly, and then I got to kind of hedge everything that I've been playing for since I was 6 years old on a senior season. You see what I'm saying? So that kind of muddies the water up and makes things really tough for him to make an accurate decision. It will for any of us, to be honest, because you've been doing this since you were 7 years old. Is NFL a bust? Is LSU really the right spot for you to to springboard to the LSU from a tight end position. If you were a cornerback, yeah, receiver, yeah, running back, yeah, fullbacks, tight ends, nah, defensive lineman, offensive lineman, everything else, yeah, maybe quarterback, maybe 50-50, but definitely tight end and fullback, you dead in the water. So I mean, that's what I see from it.
All right, appreciate that, Mozzy. Let's move it ahead, man. Some good new recruiting news coming up for 2021. As Ed Ogeron kicked off the New Year's in style, LSU landed a big commitment for the 2021 class at midnight. 3-star offensive guard Kimo McAnally gives the Tigers their second offensive lineman in the class and their second unsigned commitment heading down the stretch to National Signing Day in February. The 6'4", 285-pounder from Florida decommitted from Florida State a few days back and has committed. And he had been committed to the Seminoles since July the 26th. Now, the industry generated 24/7 Sports Composite ranks McAnally as the 28th offensive guard in the country. Now, 24/7 Sports ranks him 3 notches lower. Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Virginia Tech, and many others had offered him out. Now, he also joins St. James, Louisiana defensive end Savion Jones as a Tiger commit to go with 20 signees LSU reeled in during the early signing period. And McAnally give the Tigers another interior lineman who feels a big need as LSU looks to close out the class with more big men on the offensive side of the ball. Really interesting as Coach O's looking to add more of the big uglies on the offensive line side of the ball. So we'll be able to run the ball and protect the quarterback as well. So really solid addition to the 2021 class. Mozzy, thoughts?
I mean, it's what Coach O does. So he did at Ole Miss, and that's what he's doing at LSU. The guy's a top-notch recruiter. And in the college game, that's what you got to be as a head coach. You got to be an organizer and a top-notch recruiter. You got to go in these 3, 4, and 5-star recruits to make these guys feel like your school is home. And that's what he's successfully been able to do. I think that it starts with the offensive line. I think that helps protect the quarterback and establish a running game, which also helps the quarterback develop more confidence because he knows that all he has to do is stick it in the pocket and let the running back do what he has to do. Or, he has enough time to throw and find his accurate reads and go through his progression. So he's building it the right way because the defensive side of the ball, I think, will be corrected. We're loaded with 3, 4, and 5-star talent on that side of the ball. We just need somebody that can actually drive that car. Coach O, he's going to bring in somebody, like you say, that's conducive to the spread offense. Hopefully that's cool. If we can keep Gilbert, that'd be great. And that offensive line with Gilbert staying and a new offensive coordinator coming in could be the building blocks of a nice rebounding season going into the next season. If we go back to our 12-game situation, I'm looking for them. If everything stays in place and they bring in the new talent, I'm looking us to have 10-2, 9-3 season as a transitional bounce back, possibly doing something like maybe a Peach Bowl or a Cotton Bowl, and then springboarding in 2022 back to national championship contention. But he's doing it the exact right way. But he's got to get those pieces back in place that he once had when he had his miracle run. That passing game coordinator, that spread offensive OC, and that guy who's not going to be scared to dial up these legendary blitzes, especially with having a secondary that we have that's more than capable of man coverage on the outside.
Yeah, and that's a major part of it. Making the right decisions at OC and DC for this team moving forward is going to be instrumental to them having that springboard year. This year was a transition year, but hopefully a transition year to what? I mean, the next question would be, okay, how fast do we get back to the national championship? You said it'll be another year before they get to it. Still a lot of questions to be answered, but I definitely like the direction of the team. Final article of the show coming from LSUsports.net. Stingley earns first team All-American honors there as well. He becomes just the 12th player in LSU history to earn first team. LSU's produced 12 first team All-Americans. It's amazing what Stingley has done in a couple of years that he's been here. He was banged up this year, but this is a fantastic player. What do you think about him? Guys like Eli Ricks and York as well, who are getting those All-American honors.
Well, definitely Stingley. He stands out here because he is our best defender, especially at cornerback this time. Arguably, I would say that Stingley is our best player on defense. He definitely has contributed the most on defense, at least this year. Going into his junior year now, um, uh, he has got to. I think he's gonna be playing for the NFL contract, so you're not gonna see any fall off. I think that for me, with him, he's gonna have to definitely go in, get his conditioning up, and he's gonna have to show that he's more durable for the next level. And I think that's the part of the game that he has to develop. And I think that that'll happen. I think that as a kid, he still has a tendency to kind of be kind of loosey goosey with a few things, if that makes sense. But once he tightens those things up, and understand, like, yo, this is my junior year coming up. I'm playing for the NFL contract. It's like I got to leave it all out there on the field. I think that we're gonna see a Derek Stingley Jr. that we've never seen before. I think he's gonna step his game up exponentially, and I think that we'll be on the cusp of maybe a Honey Badger type of greatness. I don't want to put that out there just yet, but I think that that's the I think that's where he's trending towards. He was banged up this year, and obviously the first year he was a freshman, so with all of the bright lights and every he handled that really well. And all things considered, he never gave up this year. So it's all going to come down. So he's not a quitter. So to me, it's all going to come down as to whether or not he can truly rebound and understand what this new year, this upcoming year is going to mean for him and the rest of his future. He has an opportunity to play for an NFL contract for the year after next, and totally get financially free for the rest of his life, which is why these guys do what they do since they're 6-7 years old. Is for a lot of these guys, it's NFL or bust. But yeah, I think Stingley will step it up next year. He's definitely got to get his conditioning up and learn how to become more durable. Learn how to become more of a student of the game, where everything isn't so head on, and he uses a technique over skill to kind of help curb that durability. And I think if he does those things, he'll be all right.
There you go. That's it. I agree with you. Stingley is definitely our best player on defense, and boy, you're gonna see a fantastic talent. Him and Eli Ricks are really growing in the SEC, and gonna love to see what that defense look like. And hopefully, we can get the right coordinator to get the best out of these guys. Mm-hmm. So that's gonna do it for this episode of Tuff Tiger Talk. I'd like to thank you guys for chiming in on the show. Please feel free to subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Hit the like button and share the show wherever Tuff Tiger Talk LSU family members dwell. And big ups to you guys. Thank y'all for joining us. Uncle Mozzy, appreciate you dropping by, my man. And we're gonna be seeing you or hearing from you more so heading forward, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Had to get him on the record there.
You got me slipping now, so I have to tell you.
All right, so I'd like to thank all you guys for tuning in on Tuff Tiger Talk. Subscribe and join the realest show covering the LSU football. So big ups to you guys. Much love and Gold Tigers.